Started. Espinoza, and I'm project manager in the office. For finalists for the executive director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Paradise Valley Community College. Ms. Virtually, welcome. We will invite you to submit questions via the chat. If you're able to hear us now. You to submit questions via the chat during the Q&A portion of today's event. The chat is to be used solely for the purpose of submitting questions, so please refrain from any commentary or feedback. Mr. Justin Johnston will be moderating the chat. For those joining us in person, please be sure to silence your cell phones. For the forums today, our finalists have been asked to address the following. 1, 30-minute presentation. Please explain how your background, expertise, and experiences have prepared you to be the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. What do you view as the most challenging aspect of DEI work? How have you addressed this challenge? After reviewing the PVCC culture commitment, what further steps would you take to address unwelcomed, offensive, or discriminatory language and/or behavior at PVCC to build a culture that is diverse, safe, welcoming, and inclusive? Please provide a specific example. Considering your responses to the above prompts and research on Paradise Valley Community College, what 3 things would you initially focus on and why? After the final, leave the remaining time for Q&A. Again, for our virtual attendees, please pose your questions via chat. And for those in person, you are invited to come to the microphone in the center to share your question. Feedback forms can be found on the search site, and the link will be posted in the chat at the end of the question and answer session. We will share the recordings and feedback forms with the campus community to provide feedback until Wednesday, May 4th. With that, again, we would like to welcome you to the public forum for the inaugural role of Executive Director of Diversity and Equity and Inclusion at Paradise Valley Community College. This is very exciting for our and the Maricopa Community Colleges, and we are fortunate to have Dr. Matthew Whitaker with us today as one of our finalists for this role. Historian, educator, author, and community engagement leader. He is the founder and CEO of Diamond Strategies, a Better Business Bureau A+ rated certified MBE and winner of the 2022 Best 10P DEI Consultant Award. He also founded the Center for the Study of Race and Democracy, winner of the 2014 Arizona Diversity Leadership Alliance Inclusive Workplace Award. At Arizona State University, he was a professor of history for 15 years. Dr. Whitaker earned a PhD in U.S. history with honors at Michigan State University and an MA in U.S. history, a BA in history, and a BA in sociology from USC. His books include Hurricane Katrina, America's Unnatural Disaster and Race Work, The Rise of Civil Rights in the Urban West. He has consulted and lectured in Africa, Asia, Australia, and Europe, and has been featured on CNN, NPR, PBS, and is a co-founder of the Healing Racism Dialogue Series, winner of the 2008 National League of Cities Promoting Inclusivity Award. He was given the City of Phoenix Martin Luther King Jr. Living the Dream Award in 2006, received ASU's Pioneer Award for his work on behalf of African Americans in 2015, and was given the DLA's Diversity and Inclusion Leader Award in 2016. He is a trustee of the New Life Center of Arizona and a member of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul Community Advisory Board. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Matthew Whitaker.
Okay. Is the mic hot? Okay. First and foremost, I have to apologize in advance for my voice. I have seasonal allergies, and they're really bad right now, and I suspect that I'm not the only person in the room. So this is not my normal voice. It's close, but it's a bit more unrefined than it normally is. So thank you. I've been drinking lots of water throughout the day. I'm so honored to be here. It really is a distinction simply to have made it this far, and I'm grateful for that. I want to add a little bit to the bio that was just read. In addition to those other degrees that were mentioned, I also earned an Associates of Arts degree from South Mountain Community College. So I'm an alum of the district, and I am a staunch supporter of community college education. I will talk a little bit more about my history and interaction with Paradise Valley Community College in just a second. But I wanted to shout out my South Mountain Community College folk. When I went there, it was much smaller, and most of the campus were portables, and it's grown over time. So thank you very much. I want to jump right into this because I have a limited amount of time, and thank you. So are you going to have to advance it? I should be able to do it now? Okay, great. You already know what I look like. However, this is one of my favorite quotes. This is from W.E.B. Du Bois, who wrote in 1903, well over 100 years ago, that there can be no perfect democracy curtailed by color, race, or poverty, but with all, we accomplish all. This is one of the maxims that guides my life. I would add to this quote, race, class, gender, sexual orientation, faith, ability, lots of different identities and lots of different levels of status. But I think you understand the essence of this. Together, we can accomplish things. Martin Luther King said it once that we are either going to move forward together or we're all going to perish as fools. The choice is ours. We're at a fork in the road. My background. First of all, my pronouns are he, his. I was born and raised a cisgendered heterosexual Black male in Phoenix, Arizona, one of the most rapidly growing places in the country, in the middle of a Latinx community. That's my grandmother's house up top, 3243 West Taylor Street, southwest side of Phoenix. We call it Around the Way, where I grew up behind Carl Hayden High School. That's the Carl Hayden High School mascot, the Falcon, and the students. I did not go to Carl Hayden High School. I went to Alhambra High School because my mom wanted to send me out of the hood to a better school where I would be safer. There are different levels and kinds of safety. Nevertheless, this is my background, a very diverse background. I was raised by, I have two moms. My biological mother is Black, pansexual, second wave feminist, or womanist if you subscribe to Paula Gooding's work. My second mom is a second generation white female lesbian. This was the house that I was raised in the midst of a family within which I had four uncles. All of their wives are from Mexico, Sinaloa, Oaxaca. Most of my cousins are mixed roots. We have various religions represented in our family: Asian, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Jehovah's Witness, agnostic, atheist. We have Asian Americans in our families and members of the indigenous community. Three of my cousins are half Black and half Tohono. So why do I put this up here? It's because I was born into DEI before there was a word for it. And we love each other. Like all families, we're not without conflict, but we make it work. We embrace our differences and leverage our differences for progress, mutual respect, safety, trust, cohesion. And at the end of the day, I would like to think excellence. My wife is also white. She's from Minnesota, Norwegian descent, blonde hair. Our kids are Black / biracial. At our wedding, the rehearsal the day before, we had huevos, si papa, si pan dulce. We danced to Tarantella. We had Southern food. We were like the Rainbow Coalition celebrants. Okay, we jumped the broom and did the whole nine. So this is just the air that I breathe. Those are my moms. Matthew Whitaker and Dr. Mary Radcliffe to your right. And that's my team and the core of my team at Diamond Strategies. my family, who will miss me if I'm fortunate enough to get this job, but it'll be in great hands because I have members of my team that are former employees of the district who are now retired, who are specialists in diversity and inclusion themselves. So I'll check in with them from time to time if I'm fortunate enough to get the job, but they'll take it and run with it. I also live in a LDS neighborhood in Mesa. I'm the chocolate chip and the cookie dough in my neighborhood, but that's okay. One of the things that has informed my experience as a young person is I understand what it means to be other, to be ridiculed, to be homeless, to suffer from social economic isolation. Because when some family members, including chiefly my late grandmother, who I love to death, I still love, I miss her to death. She was born in the Victorian era in the South. When she found out that my mom had another partner who was another woman, we were living with her at the time. She kicked us out of the house. So we lived in my mom's 1979 Cutlass Supreme for about 3 months. The backyard, the back seat was my room. The front seat, passenger seat, was the kitchen, the rec area, the little TV room. We could plug in the little TV to the light switch that was given to us, and my mom slept behind the wheel straight up. We dressed in gas station bathrooms at the YMCA in downtown Phoenix, where I learned how to swim. This taught me a lot about the real world ramifications for being othered and dismissed and discriminated against. It was my first exposure to the need for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Diversity of people, equity in policy and practice of position, inclusion via power, voice, and a shifted organizational culture, and justice by virtue of proper policy, metrics, measurements, but more importantly, beginning with this work here and moving to here. DEI work must originate in the heart and go to the head. If you move to the head here and not the heart first, you're going to run into problems. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about getting human beings to leverage difference on behalf of growth. Human beings, and human beings make up systems, and systems shape the world. My mother taught me that as a teacher. She taught for 37 years. So did me, Mom. Me, Mom taught for 36 years. So together they had a part of a century of experience. My mother used to always tell me that, sweetheart, I can't teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. Quoting Socrates, who of course stole this quote from the Egyptians, but that's another presentation. Nevertheless, what does this mean? It means that I think the best DEI leader is someone who is knowledgeable, committed, patient, but also somebody who is a team player that generates honest but respectful dialogue, seeks consensus about how to leverage the best of what you have on behalf of growth. My expertise informs my work in this area in a number of different ways. I led my first multicultural program, multicultural, that's the word we used back in the day. Before there was DEI, DEIB, JEDI, DNI, ENI, you name the acronym, there was multiculturalism. I was 17 years old. I really didn't know what I was doing, but we knew there were some underrepresented people on the plant at the school, primarily the Latinx population, the Black students, and some Filipino students. And we brought together allies, and we just wanted to have a conversation about what this othering meant for us in our experience at the school. It was met with a staunch opposition, simply for us gathering and drawing attention to who we are as cultural people. I helped organize on behalf of women and gender studies, indigenous language courses, African American studies, and Chicano studies, which is now the School of Borderland Studies at ASU. I was a part of ACME, African Consolidated Resource Enhancement. I helped found the Black and African Coalition. When I was an undergraduate at ASU, I was involved in everything. And quite frankly, in the thorn in the side of a lot of folks who were interested in the status quo. And I firmly believe that universities and colleges, the root of university is universal. So what was being taught was not universal. It only reflected that which emanated out of Europe. Everything good and great began in Greece, moved to Rome, was represented in the Magna Carta, informed the ideas of Rousseau and Locke, was adopted by Jefferson, and found its way into our documents of freedom, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Whatever happened to the rest of the 2/3 of the planet? I was very concerned about that. They weren't represented as faculty and students at the university either. And so we organized to draw attention to that need. So even as an undergraduate, I was working in this area. There we go. The degrees and certifications that I have all focus on the intersection of migration, race, class, gender, faith, sexual orientation, veteran status, ability, neurodiversity, and leadership. That's what it distills down to. Because most academics and professionals engage in biography, meaning what they do seeks to answer some question that they had about themselves and their environment growing up, or it seeks to solve a problem that was embedded in their earlier years. For me, I wanted to know and wanted to work to change the fact that the further south and west that you drove in this valley, the darker the people got, the poorer the community got, the fewer resources that you saw, the less the city services cater to them, the fewer college and career readiness opportunities were there for them. I wanted to know why that happened. And as I studied it, I started to focus a bit more on how to correct it. That's where it led to my first book, which was the history of the civil rights movement in Phoenix, which is really a history of race relations through the lives of a prominent couple, and the extent to which allies, men to women, white to black, white to Latinx, cisgender heterosexual to LGBTQ, how those groups work together to open this area up, to make this possible. That's what this book looks at. And that's just a picture of the cover. This is not a shameless promotion. I'm not J.K. Rowling's. I get like 5 cents for each one that's sold. But nevertheless, it accomplished the purpose. As a faculty member, administrator, DEI leader, I helped create ASU's LGBTQ certificate. Let me indicate that I was not the lead on that, but I was a part of a team that worked to create it. Students identifying multiracial, biracial at ASU. And I founded and directed the ASU Center for the Study of Race and Democracy, which won one of the awards that was mentioned earlier. And the Center for the Study of Race and Democracy was charged with doing a number of different things. First and foremost, how do we close achievement gaps for our students? How do we empower our faculty, staff, stakeholders, and community to be able to close those gaps? What we argued is going to take a number of different things. First and foremost, assessment. Where have we come from? Where we are now? What do we need to implement to move forward? Policy, practice, ideology, pedagogy, instruction. What sort of relationships do we need with key stakeholders in the community? Whether it's the NAACP, whether it's MECHA, Chicanos por la Causa, whether it's Hermanos Unidos, whether it's the ADL, whether it's the LDS Church, whatever the case may be. This is what the center was charged with doing. Our anchors were exciting programs that brought people in to get them excited about DEI, to demystify it, and in some cases, de-demonize it, so that people could see, oh, this is what this is about. Most of our programs had some practical apparatus. For this particular program, we had a community fair where doulas were available, midwives, lactate consultants. APS was there to give discounts on bills. SRP was there to do that as well. Cox Communication, saving some monies on bills for certain people, tethering folks to healthcare, things of that nature. Then they'd be motivated, with a great speech, conversation, then they would be treated to a wonderful concert, and they would leave, hopefully, thinking about DEI in more positive ways and how they could support us. And it worked. We got donations to support our work. We had students who wanted to be involved. They started showing up. They started showing up at classes more. They got more assistance. We worked with professors to change some of their instructional habits, approaches to pedagogy. The students' attendance rates increased. Their performance in classes increased. Their matriculation rates increased. So did our recruitment and retention. So it's not rocket science, right? Frankly, most reputable studies will show that the ROI from DEI is robust. 21st century organizations, particularly educational institutions, if they're going to prepare 21st century leaders, have to be at the forefront of DEI. Strategy in 2016, really to operationalize my research, writing, and teaching, and to get out into the community, to move the needle a little bit more. I've been teaching for 19 years at that point, and I wanted to do something different. And also the business world, their timeline is a little different than the academic. They're very interested in putting things in the rearview mirror, seeing change quickly. And I was able to help them do that. But I miss college. I miss the students. I miss the colleagues. I miss the cadence. I miss the walk of the campus. I miss trees. I miss the syllabi. I'm sick when it comes to that. I mean, I miss all of it. And I love being in the epicenter of our future, which is educational institutions. Each organization for which I work require, based upon my work, this is the way that I approach it, because DEI is not just a feel-good thing. You have to be able to move the needle. Assessment, working groups, faculty, staff, students, community, to look at how do we equitize our curriculum? How do we equitize pedagogy? How do we equitize the way that we communicate? How do we equitize the way that we communicate non-verbally? Because of course, over 80% of what we communicate non-verbally, right? How do we equitize our space? When we enter a building, are people seeing themselves in the space? Are they seeing symbolism and signs that let them know that they belong? Because when you belong, you feel good. When you feel good, you work hard. When you work hard, you do better. I think it was Maya Angelou, the great Maya Angelou, said, once you know better, you do better, right? And sometimes that knowing better is subliminal. It's what you see, not necessarily what you hear. Strategic planning next. You gotta have a plan. Policy, practice, and concurrent training as all of this is going on. Some of my schools that I work with and other clients will look at my training catalog, and if they, you can do 50 different trainings for DEI. Yes, it's more than implicit bias, right? Oh, and by the way, there's like 22 different kinds of implicit bias. So it's much more complicated and layered than people think. But you got to plan. And then you have to implement. And when you implement, there has to be ownership, which is why this position is so important. So whether I'm offered the position or not, and I hope that I am, you have to have someone that can own the effort. It can't be accomplished as a missionary operation, as a gratis endeavor that people do in their free time, particularly faculty and people who are already here teaching and researching, writing, and doing other things. So that point is here, implementation and accountability. Where does the buck stop? How are you measuring success? Right? What are the short-term victories? What are the long-term victories? And normally, my strategic planning that I've engaged in is usually 1 to 3 years or 1 to 5 years. Sometimes it's a 10-year plan. Those are larger strategic plans, usually for an entire institution. But you have to have a strategic plan and implementation. And all of this up to here has to be consensus-based. Because whatever the plan is, it's PVCC's plan. It's not going to be the executive director of DEI's plan. That person is going to be the quarterback. But quarterbacks, no matter what they think, some of them think this, don't win the game by themselves. They need a line. I'm sorry for all the folks who hate the shaming sports analogies, but I'm sorry. Then you have to be able to communicate what you're doing well into different populations. Whomever you hire has to be culturally literate. Okay? Personal, interpersonal communication. Cultural, internal communication within the organization, within the school. And external, communicating with stakeholders, partners, building relationships. A lot of this is relationship building. This is important as well. Communication, steady communication. Oh, I'm stuck again. Am I pointing it in the wrong direction or something? Yeah, here we go. And I've talked about benchmarking and thank you. Benchmarking and matrix are very important. And all of this serves to close equity gaps in recruitment, retention, graduation rates. That's the goal. This isn't an exercise in developing a vision. That's not enough. You have to have a vision, you have to have a strategy to implement it, and then you have to implement it, and you have to measure. And once you measure, what are your opportunities for improvement and growth? Because there will be, right? MCCD transitions and recruitment. One of the things that I did when I was at ASU, I worked with former Chancellor Rufus Glasper to create a scholarship that targeted students in their second year of community college experience. And we funded them. They were able to be an intern at the center over the summer, and then they got money to support their education their first year when they transitioned over. Right? You were able to track them. You were able to give them a mentor, student mentor, faculty mentor, community mentor. Because studies show that these things really ensure success along the way, particularly for first generation students. One-on-one coaching, that's a part of the role. It may not be in the job description, but working with folks on becoming more literate in the area of DEI. Being a liaison for affinity groups. I just looked at all of your clubs and what have you on campus. The high school my son went to, Brophy College Preparatory, has like 75 kids. And when he came home, he was like, Dad, they got an anime club. It's like, cool. Okay. Then I started wondering how much he was going to actually study. And they had a Star Wars club. So that was my fault. I indoctrinated them into the Star Wars universe. But in being an affinity, and that takes a lot of, you got to have a passion for this. And I love nothing more than Heritage Month celebrations. Because that's just so exciting. You just eat so well. You meet new people and traditions, you dance, you sing. This work doesn't have to be onerous, highly political, and emotional all the time. It is sometimes because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with things that are highly politicized, but it doesn't have to be. And often that's reflected on who the leader is. I believe that attitude reflects leadership. So if you go in with a positive attitude, it can often be infectious. I think it was Charles Dickens, who said that seriousness is an admirable trait, but like most things, it can be overdone. And I believe that about DEI as well. So any oppressed people, whether you're talking about the Jewish brothers and sisters, Black folks, or indigenous people, whomever, the Slavs who migrated here, they will tell you one of the ways that enabled them to survive was being able to smile, have some hope in the face of difficult times. I've seen how DEI, when advanced, can change institutions into beacon lights of awareness, innovation, and opportunity. High-level programming that invites, excites, engages, and fortifies our campus community. That helps fortify the protracted work. Events and programs are important. Those are the short-term victories. They get to people so people can see in real time how they can feel when they experience difference and inclusion. Also, the intersection of conservation and education and faith. I want to give you one example. I worked with a team, conservationists and religious leaders, who are trying to conserve some sacred lands on indigenous lands that were being encroached by business. And they brought me in to help them figure out how they could develop a stakeholder and a partnership apparatus that allowed us to work. And I said, 90% of the people on the planet subscribe to some faith. 90% do. So why don't we reach out to our imams, our rabbis, our ministers, right? And get them on board. And we did. And many of them issued holy orders declaring those lands as being sacred. This then made the industry pause and have to negotiate with the tribal leaders and the conservationists to adopt policies and practices and hiring practices, quite frankly, even supplier diversity and procurement, who they were going to get the earth movers, how many earth movers they're going to use. All of that had to be agreed upon before they started. And as a consequence, the partnership and the growth is happening, but it's happening at a workable pace, and it's happening not at the expense of the environment. So I put this up here because all of this work can be accomplished at the intersections, building partnerships. The absence of institutional DEI has exacerbated suffering, undermined trust, and arrested well-being. That is what will happen if you don't. The white population dropped beneath 60% for the first time in America in U.S. history in December of 2020. People of color, the populations are growing. By 2050, if not earlier, it will be 67, 8, 9% of the population. The fastest growing immigrant group in the United States is not south of the border, it's our Asian brothers and sisters. Are we ready for that? In this state, Phoenix is I can't stand this term, but it's a majority minority city, right? So do we have the steps in place to empower the Latinx population, who's going to be the American majority already in Phoenix, but in many ways will be in the state and in the country, will be there? Are we empowering and equipping them to be successful? Are we creating allies to be culturally literate, to be able to work with in a successful way with these communities of color? What are the challenging aspects of DEI work? I call it the 3 C's from my experience. Number 1, coming in unsupported. You have to have support from the top. If you do not, you are, what's the biblical saying? Foolish is the man who builds his house on the sand. If you don't have support from the top, I don't want to say they're doomed to fail, but you're going to have a rocky road. Attitude reflects leadership. I said that already. So your leadership has to have the proper attitude. Support, courage, resilience, air support when things get tough, and they will. Because we're human, we're going to make mistakes. But are we going to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Or are we going to say mistakes are a part of the process? So let's recalibrate, figure out what we can do better, and keep moving. In the area of DEI, too many leaders, when they run into a barrier, just stop and say, yeah, I knew it was a bunch of that touchy-feely stuff, right? Coming in unsupported, coming in uncommitted. Ownership and accountability. Folks on the inside have to take ownership of the effort. You may not like the way that the ship is built. You may not like how long the journey is going to take for the ship to get where it's going, but you're on the ship and it's sailing. So, are you going to own the mandate, make it yours, your consensus? And are you going to be held accountable? And in what ways? And how do you measure success? 3, coming in hot, fast, and furious. I do DEI work all the time. And there's some DEI folks that are hammers. They just are. Some of you know what I'm talking about. They just seem angry, almost hostile. I believe in the carrot. I like people. I don't like to personalize things. I don't like to see people feeling bad. I don't. So the leader of the effort has to model the type of behavior that they want to see in others, meaning you don't personalize stuff. You meet people where they are. You have conversations. You value everyone's opinion, understanding that my experience my reality is not everyone else's reality. And their reality is not mine, right? But too many people come in hot. I want this changed today. Today. And it's not as a failure, right? Or coming in pointing fingers. I don't really know any effort that really works that way. And that's certainly not my style. Coming in hot, fast, and furious. So these are my three things. These are the three most challenging things. And most DEI people, if you talk to them, will tell you a lack of support, a lack of ownership and accountability, right? And the disposition and cadence of the leadership. I could get more granular, but that's not necessary. I address these challenges by, as I come to a close, being informed. I live DEI. I said this to a group earlier. I'll leave here and I'll turn on the radio and I'll start listening to stuff on NPR and I'll listen through DEI. I got a stack of books next to my bed that I'll have gray hair on my face before I get reading it. That's okay. It's there. I have alerts on my computer. I have alerts on my phone. My friends call me. I run with DEI folks in circles. We talk all the time. It's just there. Okay. Don't you want that? If you had a heart surgeon, wouldn't you want a heart surgeon who had devoted their entire life to heart surgery and hearts? You would want somebody who did it part-time, right? So being aware and aligned with leadership, right? So whoever's hired is going to step into a PVCC history and tradition that existed before they got here. So you got to build relationships. You got to know what that is and be aligned with what the mission is up until when you came in. Being humble, prepared to learn from everyone, being resilient because you're going to hit bumps in the road, being patient and deliberate. I have 4 children, so I've learned how to be patient. Being data-minded, completion rates, transfers, all this is important, and being trauma-informed, right? Trauma-informed healthcare, trauma-informed service, trauma-informed education is important, particularly as we are emerging from out of the woods of the COVID pandemic. 18 months of our streets are being on fire. We as a nation, in terms of our mental and behavioral health, and I have those clients, those companies are not doing it. So we have to understand that when serving our students, they're coming into us dealing with lots of stuff. You all know that, dealing with a lot of stuff. So we got to be trauma informed. What does that mean? That means be aware of the language that you're using, the body language that you're using, being humble when you're interacting with people, asking the right questions, and providing assistance so people can be the best that they can be. I've said this already. My reality is not necessarily. You got to be prepared for that as well. Being welcoming and responsive to feedback. I published 9 books, and one of the things that will make you, in a dissertation and a thesis, one of the things that will make you react not so negatively to feedback is getting a manuscript back from an editor with lots of red ink. So I have broad shoulders. Anybody doing this work, you got to be welcoming. You got to like people. And not everybody who does this work likes people. My mom taught for 37 years and she said, you know what? There's a lot of teachers who don't like kids. There's a lot of academics who don't like students. But you all know what I'm talking about. So you got to be careful. So I love it. I love it. Welcoming and responsive to feedback. I have a personal policy of getting back to people, at least with, I will get back to you within 24 hours. That's just my model. Sometimes it drives my family crazy, but it is what it is. Being an exemplar of interpersonal and intercultural communication. Folks have to see you practicing what you preach. They got to see you on campus, involved in all these different things. And they're going to watch how you communicate. I'm losing it. It's going. I'm almost there. Being committed to metrics, benchmarks, and rate progress. Lots of social activists, this is the part that eludes them. But as you evolve, you have to be able to measure and make a case for what you need. Now, finally, what further steps would you take? Oh, there's a thing there. To address, I think, offensive or discriminatory language or behavior at PVCC to build a culture that's diverse, safe, welcoming, and inclusive. Bless you. I would want to help PVCC see all things through an equitable lens. All things through an equitable lens. Pedagogy is one, instruction is the other. What does that mean? All of us are diverse. Diversity is a fact. We're diverse in different ways, right? I'm Black, I was born Baptist, I converted to Catholicism, so I'm kind of a Catholic. I play chess, I'm a former athlete, I'm a Westerner, right? I'm tall, all those sorts of things. We have to be able to learn as much as we can about the people that we're serving so that we can tailor our service as much as possible. I would do that. That's number one. Number two, I would want PVCC to grow into a trauma-informed campus and to understand the power of words. I like to refer to, for instance, racial epithets as verbal assault. Because words are damaging. And they mean things. And when words damage the spirit, damage spirits, hurt communities. And that causes transgenerational trauma. And those communities will last longer than any one physical body. So I think words are powerful. But part of this is education. Folks need to be informed, right, on what they were doing. One has to have grace as well. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to say the wrong thing. How do you address it? Especially in a learning institution, right? Are you practicing grace? Are you helping inform them? What is this? What's the history of this? What does it mean? How does it affect the community that hears it, right? And finally, conclusion. What were the things you would initially focus on and why? I would tend to PVCC's DER garden and licensed campus drivers on the DEI highway. You're like, the heck does that mean? Think of PVC as PVC. Any institution is a garden. Before you plant seeds in it, you want the seeds to grow. You have to till it. You have to fertilize it. You have to prepare it for the seeds to be able to maximize the potential and grow. A lot of institutions say, I want to diversify. I want to be inclusive. Let's go bring these people in without thinking about how those folks are received when they get there and what their experience is going to be like. Think about the first generation of people of color, women to be integrated into previously all male environments, white environments. It wasn't such a pleasant experience for them. But those who brought them in were just like, oh, yeah, we're being so nice. Let's bring them in. So you got to tend your garden first. And when your garden is tended, then you plant your seeds. It doesn't mean that a weed isn't going to grow or a snake isn't going to slide in there, but it does mean you have the optimal chance for effectiveness because a lot of people like to talk DEI. A lot of people like to drive cars. But you have to have a license to drive a car because if you don't, you can cause a lot of accidents. So people who do not tend the garden and are not properly licensed, educated, informed, can do more harm than good. Right? Sometimes it's better to just not have any effort if the effort you have is fraught with triggering and traumatizing practices. Second, leverage culture and difference to build trust, cohesion, close equity gaps. The most precious resource we have is each other, our backgrounds, our humor, our suffering, our positivity, our food. How do we solve problems? How do you leverage all of that and extract the proper DNA from it to build a solution to solve problems? That's what I would do. And then finally, I would focus on race and ethnicity and gender in particular. Why? Because I've looked at your report, strategic plan. And one of the things I noticed is that ethnicity and race are used interchangeably, but in some ways they're very different. And not disaggregating them, your numbers can be skewed a little bit, right? So you could be Hispanic and be white. You could be Hispanic and be Jewish. You could be Hispanic and speak Farsi, right? You could be Latinx, however, right? And be Black as well. You could be Afro-Latino. But oftentimes the numbers are skewed. When I've surveyed host organizations, when we have queried the term, when we use the term Latinx and Hispanic, what we have found is there's a deviation of about 4 to 5%. So basically, some white people ended up in the Hispanic category, which made it look like in their statistics that the white population was, the people of color population was larger than it actually was. Does that make sense? This is what I'm finishing with. What do we need? Critical thinking. I'm not going to read all this to you, but we need to institutionalize critical thinking. We need to institutionalize cultural literacy, right? Traditions, activities, what people do to maintain themselves. Institutionalize emotional intelligence. I am going to read this because emotional intelligence begins with understanding our own emotions in various situations. That's self-awareness. Then using this awareness to regulate those emotions to produce healthy responses. That's self-management. These equip you to be better tuned to the emotions of others. That's social awareness. And this helps us to respond effectively, reducing conflict and stress in this relationship. And there are ways that you can institutionalize these so that these become important. Because right now, as a society, we're not doing this. We're reacting as opposed to acting. So I finished by saying thank you for listening. And we have to keep our eyes on DEI. And hopefully I'll have an opportunity to talk to you more and work with you and dig in a little bit deeper. Can't cover too much in the time that I had, and I'm sure that I went over, so I beg your pardon for that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Again, for our virtual attendees, those questions via chat. For those in person, you are invited to come to the microphone in the center of the room to share your question. PVCC hosted the biannual Festival of Tales, a celebration of cultural literacy. For the first time ever, PVCC hosted Drag Queen Storytime, where a volunteer from the drag community read to our community members and their children. In the week leading up to the event, there was significant pressure from some members of the community for PVCC to cancel Drag Queen Storytime. What would have been your response to this pressure?
First and foremost, my response would have been, I would ask some clarifying questions of those who had concerns to try to find out precisely what is your concern. What specifically is your concern? And then once they iterate what that concern is, then I will have a better opportunity to respond to that. Without being able to know that, what I will say is, this is a public institution that seeks to serve the community. The community is made up of lots of different people, including drag queens. And why not? What would be the effect? What would be the negative consequence of them coming and reading to someone? But inclusion is inclusion, and it literally means everybody. So my response would be, I don't know any statistics. I don't know any history. I don't know any sociological data that would show that those that are being read to or those that participate in the events are in any way, shape, or form going to be harmed or violating the law or the Constitution by engaging in this behavior. I mean, without knowing specifically what the issue is that each individual had, that's what I would say. I like to draw upon personal experiences. When I grew up, we lived in an area separate from where my mom's worked. We had 2 phones. We had 2 mailing addresses. We never shopped in the grocery store near our house because they didn't want anybody to see us. We were closeted, right? Because back then it was believed that somehow you could catch lesbianism, or you could, catch being pansexual. They didn't use that term back then. And particularly teachers. And so they lived in hiding. I don't believe in sequestering anyone or forcing anyone into the shadows, into secrecy. To me, it's antithetical to education, particularly public education, and it's antithetical to what America is supposed to be about. That's the best answer I would have without actually talking with folks.
My name is Callie Mari, and I work in the Office of Student Life and Leadership. So when you mentioned clubs, you already had my attention, but you got my curiosity. I don't know if you know what that's from. It's from Django Unchained. But
Well, I recognize it. That's why I'm smiling. I was like, there you go.
Well, I have another reference for you too. It's kind of a Greek reference. And usually when I see people like you, which is a compliment, I mean successful people, I look for an Achilles heel, which leads me to my question. Mm-hmm. What was one moment you underestimated someone based on your own assumption, and how did you make it right?
Oh, it's a great question.
Thank you.
Allie?
Yes.
It's great. It's a great question, Callie.
Say it again.
No, I'm trying to think of it. Okay, I got one for you. I had a program at a school, and I brought in, I think we hosted it at PC, and I brought in an academic from Nottingham, the sheriff of Nottingham. He literally came in from Britain. And as a part of the program, we invited some students to go out to dinner with us afterwards. And normally you take people to like nice, traditional restaurants, where they're gonna have a good time. And they're often very Eurocentric in nature. And so his name is Dino Critiotis. He's Googleifiable. And his nickname for me is the International Man of Mystery. Great guy. So we took him to this place for dinner, and we walked in, and he's sitting down, he's looking at the menu. He's like, oh, this is awfully posh. He's like, I don't even recognize some of this stuff on here. And he looked at me, and he was like, he said, in this, I can't do his British accent, but at the risk of offending, may I ask you if there are any good chicken and waffle restaurants near here? I was like, you want chicken and waffles? And he was like, yes, you are my friend. So I felt comfortable in that chicken and waffles. And I was like, man, how did you know about chicken and waffles? He said, yeah. And I said, oh, we got a place. It's called Lolo's. I said to the owner, his name is Larry, let's go. So we tipped the server really well, and we all loaded up on our cars, and we drove down to Lolo's. We didn't have a reservation. I had to call Larry. They let us in, and we sat down, and he knew the menu, like not the specific menu, but he knew what collard greens were. He knew Cajun catfish was a smothered. I'm like, Dino, what? He was like, oh, you thought because I was white? Like I can't do my research. And he said, we have a soul food restaurant in England too. And I said, and I felt so unworldly in that moment, like somehow we had a monopoly on that here. But we learned too, and I knew him to be an academic, white and male and British. And I didn't think that his cultural literacy was where it was. And I made assumptions myself about that. And we had some fun later on in the dinner. And I have to tell you, incidentally, watching him, listen to him order was hilarious. If you know the menu there, he was like, and what is the Betty Boop? I don't know the Betty Boop. Like it's the Betty Boop is two chicken legs, man. But that is not a theoretically overwhelming example, but that's the one that came to my mind because I thought about this small in that moment because here I am, practitioner in DEI, making the assumption of somebody that I had known for 10 years. At that point, he was more comfortable in there than some of the people who worked there.
I appreciate the sincerity and honesty. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. He would laugh at that if he knew to. Thank you.
So as a reminder, feedback forms can be found on the search site and the link will be posted in the chat for those attending virtually. After the form is complete, we will share the recordings of feedback forms with the campus community to provide feedback until May 4th. This now concludes our public forums, and thank you for your time, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.